All right, Dave, I got a great idea for a new campaign. You guys are a crack commando team that was sent to prison for a crime you didn't commit.
All right, so far I'm liking it.
But here's the catch. You escaped from the stockade to the urban underground. You're wanted fugitives, and you survive as soldiers of fortune.
That sounds kind of familiar, Ted.
And if the NPCs have a problem and there's no one else to help, if they can find them, maybe they can hire the adventuring party.
But dude, that is literally the whole plot to the A-Team. Well, but I'm kind of into it.
I love it when a plan comes together.
Welcome to Nerdarchy. Nerdarchist Dave here, and today I'm hanging out with this nerd.
Nerdarchist Ted. Today we're talking 5e D&D Feats, a rogue's guide.
So do you folks want practical D&D information and content that you can drop right into your game?
If the answer is yes, you might want to hit that subscribe button and attune to that notification bell so you don't miss a single video.
So we decided to do a video about feats and rogues. Why not? And we kind of came up with like 5 different builds using feats. It is a little tough because you only get so many ASIs in the game, but at least the rogue gets a few more. And if you go human, well, you can pump that all the way up to 7, I believe.
Absolutely. It's the second most amount of feats that you would get in a game, most being a human fighter.
Right, so we're going to kind of break things down according to pillars of the game. You have exploration, combat, and social.
Absolutely. But I think before we go into even that layers, we got to ask, what kind of elements kind of build together a rogue? What kind of things are going to make people lean in a particular direction when it comes to feats?
You're talking about doing one of 2 things, I feel like. One is broadening the base what your character can do, or you're talking about really specializing and focusing in on one area of the game, or one aspect of that particular character.
And when you look at the rogue is someone who naturally is a specialist, given how skill heavy they are, given the amount of expertise that they wind up getting. The rogue is already that crack commando in whatever niche that they're going to lean themselves towards. And again, where you place those skills, where you place those expertises is really going to be where that character focuses. So feats are a way to kind of focus fire even further, should you so desire.
Yeah, and then you have like 2 different areas, right? We said they're kind of the expert. Talk about that in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. I think you're really talking about skills, right, when we're talking about experts and doing things. But then the rogue has something else going on with them, and that's sneak attack, right? So that also makes them really hard hitting. So when you're looking at feats, you can focus on either one of those or split up between those. There's a lot of different directions you can go in.
We have these 3 pillars. We have all of these components that are put together to make an awesome rogue. Where do we go next?
We already mentioned that you're probably, if you really want to focus the rogue and make them even more of an expert, you're probably going to go towards feats that enhance or give you more skills. Or you're going to go towards combat, and depending on what kind of combatant you're going to be, you're going to take feats that are going to make you better at either being a melee combatant or a ranged combatant. Now, when we were going through the list of feats, which was made so much easier because we used our sponsor, the sponsor of this video, D&D Beyond, to sort through, and it actually conveniently tagged all of the feats for us, so we could categorize them that much faster, that much easier. We love using D&D Beyond for making characters, for writing our campaigns, and for making these videos for you guys. It just makes life so much easier.
D&D Beyond for me, you've brought this up before, but those hover cards, you don't need to click open a new thing. You go right to it, and it just shows you, oh, this is what that ability or this is what that text is. You don't need to click through and go to another thing and then have to go back. D&D Beyond makes finding things, whether it be, character information, whether it be monster information or spells, that much easier, that much more awesome. So D&D Beyond is great. Go check it out.
Speaking of feats, we found like 14 feats that to me just screamed these were meant for the rogue. These are all super effective for using with building a rogue build.
You know, did we want to go through and just give a quick list, or did we want to just be like, hey, you know, we're going to get right into our builds?
Okay, so you know what? I guess we'll probably just get right into the builds. I will say, though, there's also a lot of good racial feats that we just kind of threw out the window because we're building more generic. We're not like specifically this is a human or this is an elf build. But there's, you know, definitely if you go into those, it broadens it even wider. So it would push you beyond that 14 that we came up with.
Absolutely. So if you're happen to be building your rogue and you want to complement this list, and you got some cool racial feat options, you know, don't overlook those as well.
We'll start off, we'll go kind of like in alphabetical order. We'll start off with combat. We came up with either you're going to do the sniper build if you're playing a rogue, or you're kind of down to duel.
Absolutely. So the sniper build, as you can expect, this is going to be your ranged combatant rogue. I think this is what you're going to see far more often when it comes to rogue builds. You know, whether you're using a crossbow, whether you're using a longbow, you're talking about that ranged combatant, and you're going to need crossbow expert, sharpshooter, and skulker.
All right, so the reason why these are important, sharpshooter, that is going to greatly enhance your damage potential and also gets rid of disadvantage at long range. Crossbow expert is really important because it gives you the ability while you're in melee to fire at your opponent without getting disadvantage. So it comes in super useful.
Absolutely. Why is skulker on this list? This doesn't seem to be the one to add any more damage.
No, but Skulker is great because if you want to hide and pew, pew, pew people, shoot at them, it doesn't give away your position if you have the Skulker feat. And it also does some other things as well. But for this particular build, that's what was important. So all of them have great features that you can really optimize. You know, if you wanted to use them all and use them all the best, probably hand crossbow. But, you know, longbow does more damage. You get range, so there's reasons to do that as well.
Yeah, sharpshooter, you know, taking that -5 for the +10 to damage is, you know, super helpful. You know, in games that I've been a part of, and even games that I've seen online streaming, like that extra plus to damage pushes things over the top so often. It's a 100% must for any character who's driven to do more damage in combat with ranged.
Yeah, and when you combine that with Skulker, you're probably rolling with advantage, so that's going to help. Next, we have the melee combatant, and that's down to duel.
All right, so now this is a little bit riskier because you're a D8 hit die, but you're going to go into melee. So hopefully you're bringing along a tank to kind of support you, and there's a healer not too far off. But if you're down to duel, obviously you want dual wielder. You're going to want mobile. And we got another odd one to throw into the mix. We're going to talk Sentinel.
Yeah, the reason why we threw Sentinel in is because Sentinel can take place when it's not your turn. And this is really important for a rogue. As a reaction, if you haven't used your reaction already, if an ally gets attacked within 5 feet of you and you're within 5 feet of them and the enemy, then you can use your reaction to attack them. And that would be a sneak attack. So
because you've automatically got an ally within 5 feet.
Correct. So, yeah, and there's some other great things like you can't disengage from someone who has Sentinel, and you can also stop their movement if you hit them. So these are all useful things, but I feel like anything that gives the rogue the ability to get more sneak attacks is definitely a plus for them. Having
seen, you know, not this exact combination, but having seen the rogue getting more sneak attacks because of other options, I definitely have to agree that the rogue sneaking more than once in a total combat round, it's devastating on the enemies.
It's going to increase the number of attacks you get. It's going to increase your armor class. It also allows you to draw 2 weapons at once. These are all super useful. Now, this feat you can chuck if you're not going to be fighting with 2 weapons. But, I kind of feel like the swashbuckler type does this often. The biggest problem with fighting with 2 weapons for a rogue is a rogue always has tons of stuff to do with their bonus actions. So you never starve for choice. Sometimes you have too many choices.
Having been in a situation where, getting 1 attack around, I missed, not only am I not hitting, but I'm not sneaking this round. So being able to have that second shot with your offhand, totally worth the trade-off. And, if you sneak with your first attack and you want to use a cunning action, by all means.
It does open up your options for sure. So that brings us to mobile, and why would we want to take mobile as our down to duel character?
Well, first and foremost, you're going to increase your walking speed by 10 feet. This is never a bad thing, but if you need to be in melee, well, you need to be within 5 feet of your enemy to be able to hit them. Therefore, having the ability to use cunning action to do a dash, and having that increase 10 feet to your base, that's going to increase your chances of getting there that much faster. And now you've got the chance to do damage. But there's other things as well.
Yeah, if you attack an opponent and you have the mobile feat, you do not have to use the disengage action to not draw an attack of opportunity. So this makes this fighter that much more mobile on the battlefield. Pun not intended. And not only that, though, if you take the dash action over difficult terrain, it doesn't count against you. So that's another factor. You can really play to the battlefield with this build.
So you really have the ability to kind of bounce in and out of combat, should you so desire. Yeah, you might be using your action to swing, your bonus action to disengage, or to not disengage, but to move out. Possibly through difficult terrain that your opponent can't keep up with you.
Absolutely. The best defense is no be there.
All right, so next we're going to move on to exploration. And what do we have?
All right, so with exploration, you have the scout or the explorer, or we have the extreme adventurer.
So with the scout, you're going to get a handful of things that are going to, as you would guess, make you better at exploration. You're going to get alert, you're going to get dungeon delver, you're going to get observant, and, that previously mentioned skulker.
Okay, so, the important thing with these feats are alert gives you a bonus to the initiative, and you can't be surprised. Super helpful when you're out in front scouting and exploring and doing those things. Then both observant, dungeon delver, and skulker, they all kind of double down on your skills and your senses. If you have a combination of dungeon delver and skulker, they totally eliminate one of the factors for, you've probably heard Ted talk about his eyes character and how that character could never be surprised or his perception was so high. But there are a couple things that do bring perception down. Dim light, as well as movement speed, right? So you can't search things. That can bring you down by like a -10. That's huge.
Absolutely.
Combine these two feats, Skulker and Dungeon Delver, totally eliminates that. So it makes you even better at doing that. And I think Ted even missed those when he's doing his eyes build.
I did. There was a lot going on with that particular character, but passive perception 30 was nothing to nothing to scoff at, and it definitely sent that DM for a little bit of a loop. But had I gone in this direction, then she really wouldn't have known what to do.
Yeah, and not only that though, like this combination makes you super tanky against traps as the rogue, right? You have resistance to damage from traps. You're more likely to find them. So really, this is the ultimate explorer or scout kind of build.
So you can totally get in there, find the stuff, stay hidden, and do everything you need to do without your enemies even knowing that you are there.
Yeah, and if you go human with this build, you still have 3 more ASIs to play with, where you can either do more feats or just take stat adjustments. And even if you don't get human, you can still max out your dex without a problem.
As long as you started off with that 16.
Yes, absolutely. Why would you not?
All right, so the extreme adventurer. What do they get?
All right, so we're looking at athlete, dungeon delver, and mobile for this one.
All right, we've already talked about how awesome mobile is, but why is athlete good for a rogue?
Okay, so one, if you end up prone, you can get up and spend only 5 foot of movement, which is helpful. You get to use your climb speed. When you climb, you use your regular speed. It's not halved. It makes you faster. It's also going to give you a stat adjustment to strength or dex. So it just makes this character a lot more physical.
And, if they're going to be an extreme adventurer, then it totally makes sense that they're more physical.
Yeah, and then so we added Dungeon Delver in too, because the idea is, like, instead of spelunking caves, you kind of spelunk dungeons and stuff like that. And then we, like you said, we talked about mobile, and how that can be super helpful for moving through difficult terrain. So it's when you combine these three, you're going to be able to move around, and get to hard to reach places much easier than a lot of your other players, and you don't even have to use magic to do it.
Absolutely. You could easily throw this kind of character in there, throw your expertises into athletics and to acrobatics, and you would be super physical.
Yeah, so that was kind of the idea. Next, we have our last pillar, and that is social.
And here we're going to call this one the Mimic.
Yeah, Mimic or Spy works equally well for this one. We've got Actor, we've got Observant, we've got Linguist, and we've got Keen Mind.
All right, now, a lot of these, we've talked about Observant, but these aren't really coming across as your typical rogue type things. Linguist, Actor, Keen Mind? How do these play into, a rogue build?
All right, so Actor is going to give you a bonus to your charisma, which this is kind of a charisma-based rogue in my opinion. And not only that, it makes you better at mimicking other people and pretending to be someone you're not. So it's going to make you really good with disguises.
All right, so this is for your charlatan rogue.
Well, it could be for your charlatan rogue or just someone who's a spy or infiltrator.
Yeah, the great thing about the rogue, as Dave pointed out before, is the rogue falls into that expert category. So you could, I've got sneak attack, so I can do combat, but I want to focus my skills on instead of intelligence, I want to go charisma. And this is where we see this kind of rogue build. You're going to be using your expertises on your interactions, as you would expect. This is in the social pillar.
Yes. So, Observant, that just makes us like you're at a party or you're at a function and you're just aware of everything that's going on. But, not only that, you have the ability to read lips.
And that's the real key, because you could be that person that's just sitting off to the side and you're getting everything that is happening in these conversations without you even having to be close enough to have heard it. Imagine the amount of dirt that you could get out at a social gathering where, no one has the slightest clue that everything that's being said.
And then Keen Mind, that's going to allow you to remember everything for up to a month. So there's plenty of time to go, do your mission, get out, and then write a brief where it's going to be perfect recall and have everything there. So that, which also kind of leans into the last one, Linguist.
And, here, obviously, if you're going to be reading lips, if you're going to be spying on people, well, then you're going to need to know the languages that they're speaking. You're going to need to know the languages that are, written down in the things that you're going to pick up and read and be like, okay, I know what this says. Because of Keen Mind, I'm going to put it perfectly back where it was. I'm going to go back, I'm going to make a forgery, and I'm going to write it all down, and now I've got an exact copy.
Now, not only that, maybe you're on a protracted mission and you have to kind of do your briefs while you're there. Linguist kind of leans into that too, because you can create ciphers, the DC for which are your proficiency mod added to your intelligence score, not modifier. So they're going to be hard to crack. And I would take that a step further. If I'm the DM, you have Linguist, and you're trying to crack ciphers, because you make ciphers yourself, I would say you're better at it, and I would give you advantage to that role. That's just me personally as a DM.
And that makes a lot of sense. So this character being able to know languages, know exactly what they've seen or heard, for the last month, being able to, do all of this stuff makes them phenomenal spies.
With that, how would you build your rogue using feats from 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons? We got a place we can talk. You can talk about that, and that is down in the comments below. While you're at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. But hey, while you're on your way down there, check out the link to our Patreon. If you like the stuff we do here on these videos, you're going to love what we're doing over on Patreon. We're taking content from the videos, we're turning them into PDFs and products for you guys and girls to enjoy in your games. You're going to get them earlier on the Patreon, and you're going to get them for less. We also have other things going on, Patreon-only hangouts, as well as you get to be one of our play testers for the content we're coming up with. Go check out our Patreon.
Don't forget to stop by the description and check out the links to D&D Beyond. Support the channel by supporting our sponsors.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.